Hello everyone and welcome back to the Project Corinthians 9 YouTube channel. Today's episode will be covering Islamic Defense's defense or attack really on Stephen Crowder and Anni Cyrus. Now, I'm focusing mainly on Miss Cyrus as I believe that Islamic Defense decided to mock her. She was, if we read her biography, Iranian American human rights activist, and he was sold for $50 as a child bride in Islamic Republic of Iran. Escaping from her childhood in sex slavery, she found freedom in America. Now, if anyone knows what sex slavery is, it is in fact a form of torment. It is rape. It is all those things combined. Now we will go ahead and listen to what this guy has to say just for a few seconds.
This is a trick question. You Muslims always do taqiyya. So are you saying that Muslims lie all the time? Yes, and they marry babies. My father tried to marry me off when I was a baby. How old were you when your father tried to marry you off? I was only 14. I was just a little baby and my father tried to force me into marriage. That's so barbaric. Can you imagine what would happen if a Christian country allowed something like this?
Now you notice that he automatically starts mocking her for being forced into sex slavery. He starts mocking her for being raped. He starts mocking her for the harsh, cruel treatments that she had to endure while she was in a child marriage where a man would beat her for not submitting to her. And yet he makes fun of her and then tries to turn it onto Christians. Now later on in the video, he goes on to make claims that Aisha was not 6, that she was much older, and various things like that. In reality, his hadith is very weak, while he claims it is strong, and he supports Iran. He really does. So, in his supporting Iran, his flaw of not reading into the history of Aisha, not reading into her age, knowing that she was in fact 9 whenever Muhammad actually had intercourse with her, knowing these facts, and this is accepted by many Muslims that are avid readers of the hadiths. So, and of course most of them are Sunni, the other ones are Shia, but I don't exactly know what this guy is. However, for his support of Iran and things like that, I assume that he is Shia. If he is Sunni, he's awful at it. But I'll go down to what I said. So I started off because understand that I came here only because Annie actually posted it on her Telegram broadcast. So I came there to say what she said, which was he covered her up. And if you notice, see right there, she's covered up. Well, I put what a pitiful defense, and then still can't defend the Prophet Muhammad properly and all his evils. Well, Islamic Defense took the bait and actually could not refute that, or decided not to. He decided to ignore that he cannot defend the Prophet Muhammad. And instead, he started to attack the Bible by fix your own Bible. Then he claims that Annie should be shaved according to the Bible. Now, I know his thought, which is that women who do not cover up constantly and consistently on a day-to-day basis should be shaved. That is not what the Bible says. But I started off with, that's your reply, there are 2 schools of thought. Now, I started off with the first view, and then I said the second view. I didn't say which one I agreed to or adhere to. And then I say that either way, you take the verse as a way to say that Christian women should cover up at all times. This has never been the case. And then I resaid my statement as in you still can't refute your prophet's evils. I went on to say that, as David Lynn would say, Annie might not be at that point in Christ right now. Instead of attacking her and disrespecting her as your religion teaches you, because apparently he claims that his religion does not teach him that, and yet he does it, and he's advocating for his religion, so his religion must teach that. I told him to be a man and show her respect. Notice that he refuses to show her respect and to be a man, and instead keeps on attacking a single view, and then claims that it is my idea. It is not my idea. It is, in fact, two schools of thought, as I previously mentioned. Well, then he goes with men should shave their heads, and that they would have to shave their head every time they pray. That is actually a fallacy. And then he claims that, why use cover as a metaphor if you are going to explain it anyway? Well, Jesus would always use metaphors or parables, and he would still explain them anyway. In some cases, he would explain them. And in this case, Paul, he was making I'm sorry, I sometimes get to clicking things, but he would sometimes say something and then hit it again, and this time explain it completely, and he was doing that for his audience. So with my statement, of course, it's not my idea. He chose one thought and wanted to ignore the other one. So I gave him David K. Bernard's Practical Holiness on hair, and which says, some people insist that women of all cultures today must wear a veil of cloth. However, a literal translation of the Greek indicates that the long hair alone is a sufficient covering as far as nature's teaching is concerned. The Greek English New Testament states the long hair instead of a veil has been given to her. And then, of course, he, as his previous claim that men should shave their hair because they have hair. Even today, however, there is at least one specific way in which nature yet teaches us about hair. Baldness is apparently inherited and is, in a small way, a sign of masculinity, since the tendency does not manifest itself, even though inherited, unless there is more than a certain critical concentration of male sex hormone in the blood. As a result, women rarely go bald. So women rarely go bald, and men who are castrated before adolescence apparently never do. Now, in this way, nature teaches us that little or no hair on a man is an ordinary, normal occurrence, but that little or no hair on a woman is unnatural and shameful. Of course, if we actually click on the link that I sent, and we go down to section 209, we'll get there. It goes over the application of hair, whether it's the hair, whether it's a veil, if it's a literal veil, and of course, I did mention that there are two views. Now, he's focusing on the particular view of the woman's hair being a covering, and he wants to attack it and claim that it doesn't make sense and that it's stupid and things like that. Well, of course, I believe that David K. Bernard does actually have a very viable defense on this case, and it should be looked at, and perhaps both views could be possibly correct. We need to look at a common ground. However, he is, as mentioned, whenever I mention you take the verses away to say Christian women should cover up at all times, this has never been the case. If you go on and let me see if I can find it. I believe it's here. He specifically states that this is a Muslim woman's religious duty to wear the hijab so they can be recognized as a Muslim. Christianity says the exact same thing. This is a lie. The religious duty to wear the hijab, what about the burqa or the niqab? What about, why are they not, apparently they can't be recognized as a Muslim, or they're recognized as a better Muslim, I mean, who knows? But he's claiming that women can, or they don't have to, it's their choice, but they're supposed to. So pretty much if they don't do it, they're going to hell, but it's their choice whether or not they want to go to hell and disobey the prophet. And of course he says, he's forgiving and most merciful, yet he is pretty much saying that it is their duty to do it. So if they don't do it, Allah is not going to be forgiving. He's not going to be merciful because they're not doing it. And then, so I put, continuing to lie about Christianity only sends you to one place, and it isn't paradise that's referring to hell. You ignore the context of pray and prophesy in public. So, and again, and notice that it specifically states it's talking about prays and prophesies. All right. So it's a woman who prays and prophesies. Now, this, if we actually look in Corinthians, you actually find out that it's talking about people who are doing this in public. So it's not just whenever you're in private, not in your family, things like that, but whenever you are in public, like let's say you're at a church building and there's a bunch of people around, yes, then some Christians say that a veil, a literal veil, or a hijab, or something that at least covers on the top of their head. Now, whether it covers their entire hair, actually, most of the time it was never that. Although some women who might feel that way or who want to protect their hair at that time, it possibly all right, but it never actually speaks about them wearing it 24/7, all day, everywhere, at all times. It only states whenever they pray or prophesy with their head uncovered and in a public setting. So if they're going shopping, they don't need a hijab, they don't need a veil. If they're going outside, they don't need one. It's only whenever they come together to pray or prophesy. And of course, this can also work with the hair as well being a covering. So the two views could possibly be correct, or they possibly both. You could actually combine them and get something out of that. This guy does not seem to know anything about Christianity, and yet he's trying to debate it. You can't do that. It's terrible. And of course, as this person says, just because child marriage is allowed in some countries does not make it right. And this guy is trying to claim that it's not an Islamic problem. In fact, it's a Christian problem. And then he goes on to claim that America and the West are the problem. Now, America and the rest are not Christians. They are not Christian. They are not Christian nations. And while some of them can call themselves that, they are not. And he is trying to blame America and the West and claiming that Islam, and mainly Iran, is the best solution for the entire world. This is Islamic Defense's views, and they are awful.